So my treatment consisted of chemotherapy, which went on for 18 weeks. And during those weeks, I had about every third week, I was really down. I was really not feeling good. And I hated that time because I was usually in bed and I was like, I can't even get up and like give my daughter a bath or like, I just didn't, excuse me, feel good. And that was really hard. And then after that was my surgery, which was a very in-depth surgery. It was a lot of things done at one time. It was a double mastectomy, reconstruction, ovary removal, all of it at once. And it was a solid 6-week recovery. And that was very difficult to not be able to not only do things for them, but to not be able to do things for myself.
Good morning. My name is Stephen Borelli, and you are tuned into the Sport of Business podcast. A few years ago, I started my business, Cuts Clothing, from my parents' basement in Washington. Leading a startup has its perks. One of them is connecting with like-minded individuals. On this podcast, you'll hear from some of the people I've gotten close with along the way. Get their takes on trends, business, and current events. And for future founders out there, hopefully you'll take something home that you can apply to your brand. This is the Sport of Business. Let's dive in. Awesome. Welcome to episode 12 of For the Sport of Business podcast with my good friend, Nasreen Shahi. How are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Yeah. I've been stoked to jump on the pod. We have breast cancer awareness, and that's been such a close issue to you. And we have we're making a special shirt this year and giving proceeds away. So we wanted to interview you to hear about your story and kind of touch base and provide awareness to such an important cause to us here at Cuts.
Yeah, I think that's amazing that you guys are doing that. And I'm super happy to be a part of this.
Awesome. So yeah, why don't you start off and just kind of explain I always say to people on the first episode is, give me your life story so people not knowing who you are can kind of get a quick glance of who you are today.
Okay. Oh gosh, life story. Okay. Well, I'll start where I started my blog. How about that?
Perfect.
But I'm a mom of 3. I'm 41 years old. I live in Austin, Texas, and I started this fashion blog when my youngest was a year old. She's now 6 years old. So about 5 years ago. And I started it just kind of like on a whim. I wanted to share. I've always loved like sharing beauty stuff and fashion stuff, but I wanted to keep it really relatable and really, geared towards the moms that are like me, that are just like out there, want to look cute, but be comfortable and like stay on trend, but that sort of thing. So that's when I started my blog, and, it kind of just went from there. And I love what I do. And I'm really thankful to be able to do this while working from home and being able to do all the mom things and everything like that as well. And truthfully, throughout my treatment as well, I've been able to keep up. So it's been really great.
So walk us through when you kind of found out and what that was like.
Yeah. So I had turned 40 years old the year of COVID. Or like right at the end of the year before COVID. And so I was a little bit late for my annual exam, but I was still, within a couple months, but I went for just my annual women's well check so I could get a referral to go do my first mammogram. And my doctor upon exam was like, things feel a little different. I think that since we're going to do a mammogram anyway, since you're 40 years old, let's go ahead and do a 3D mammogram, which is just basically more in-depth one. And I was like, okay, I really didn't think much of it. I called to schedule it because of the way things were and still are, unfortunately, in the medical world. There was just a big delay to get in. So I think almost 6 weeks had gone by the time I scheduled my mammogram and by the time I, was able to get it done. And yeah, it was kind of all downhill from there, to be honest. But I went in and did my mammogram, and the radiologist kind of said, this doesn't look good. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty concerned. And I think you need a biopsy like stat.
Wow. And was that a pretty big shock on your family and just kind of going through that? And
oh my gosh, like a complete shock. And when I say I thought I was in the best shape of my life, I truly was. I mean, I was working out 5 days a week. My energy was great. I was doing everything and more than you would expect of a healthy person to be doing. I did not have a single symptom that I can pinpoint. Even looking back, when I try to look back and I'm like, what could I have done differently? How could I have caught this sooner? And I try not to go there anymore, but I really don't think that there is anything I could have done differently other than advocate to try to get a mammogram at a younger age, which I really didn't have any, solid reason to, because we don't have a family history.
Yeah, that's, man, no, that I don't envy anyone to be in the doctor's office to hear that news. Well, it's good to, how's everything as of today? Now, fast forward to today.
Yeah. So fast forward, well, actually things moved really, really quickly, once I was diagnosed. And now being on the other side of it, I feel great. I feel very lucky to be where I am and be in the position that I'm in now. But things are really good now.
That's good. Well, we're happy to hear that everything's good. And I think another thing we like to talk about is for the sport of business and kind of going through what you did. Business today is so much different than previous generations where, it's not necessarily in an office like we are here. You can have a lot of success being a blogger, a content creator, and careers are very much different than they were. You've really found a niche in your blog, and kind of tell us how you curated your community to be very specific to your life.
Yeah. I feel like I started this in a time where there were a lot of people doing it, but it wasn't as saturated, I would say, as it is now. But I feel like I got into this kind of in the right time, and it was all very organic. I never was out there to like gain followers. It was very much like, hey guys, this is what I'm wearing today, tagging where it's from, linking where it's from. And it just, I think because it was relatable and it wasn't like, like high end, runway fashion that was nobody could ever wear in real life, because it was relatable and because people could relate to the fact that I was a stay-at-home mom and doing the carpool lines and the, activities and everything. They felt connected in that way. And for me too, I feel very connected to my audience. Like I feel that we are all like truly like a big group of friends. And I think that's kind of really the basis of my entire business, is to be relatable, to be truthful and honest about every item I review. And but when you have your audience's trust, it's sacred. Like you really, like, it means a lot to me to have their trust, and honestly, to have them along on this entire journey that I've been on for the past year has brought me a lot. It has helped me so much.
And in what ways has it helped you? And how do you, like, initially, was it hard to be honest with, with your audience and, hey, this is what I'm going through?
Yeah. So when I found out, I kind of like disappeared for a couple of days and was just kind of like not really posting much. Or if I had something I needed to post, it was people could tell something was going on. They were like, are you okay? What's wrong? We haven't seen you. And at first I was like, well, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to be bald and going through all this stuff publicly. And how do you turn a fashion blog into this journey? Like, how is this going to work? And then, after a couple of days and really sitting on it, I was like, what am I thinking? Like, this is an opportunity where I can, one, help so many people, because I can help spread awareness. I can, what I have found out now there are thousands and thousands of women looking so desperately to relate to somebody who's gone through this. I was one of those, and I would just search online, like, I wish I had somebody who could tell me what they did for their hair. I wish I could have somebody tell me how they dressed after surgery, or like, I wish I had somebody that could have helped me. And so that's when I decided, like, well, forget that. Like, I'm definitely going to share this. And yes, it was hard to be vulnerable and show different parts of it. But I think once I did, I realized the need for it, I think, and it just became like, okay, well, here we go. I'm just going to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's kind of what I did. So, yeah,
that's incredible. Was there any stories that you can share of, you shared an example of something that happened and then it really impacted someone else, one of your community members?
Yeah, I can't even count on both of my hands how many girls have reached out to me and said, I found my cancer early because of you. After seeing your story and demanding to get a mammogram or paying more attention and doing self-exams, I, went and found out was diagnosed, and other girls who, actually I have a physician who reached out to me from Chicago, and she was like, I can't count how many people have come into my office and said, I follow a fashion blogger who's my age and has no history. I want a mammogram too. Like, I'm past due and I need to get it done. So I do feel really confident that I've helped somebody out there, you know?
Mm-hmm. Would you say what you said you got your mammogram at age 40? Do you think would you recommend for girls to start maybe 30, or what would your advice be for a
I mean, I'm
healthy?
certainly no like expert, and I don't think that they're in the medical community that they would advise at 30. But I think if I had paid more attention to my body and more
Mm-hmm.
attention to changes that were happening that I maybe just wasn't in tune with because I was
Mm-hmm.
just so busy in the hustle and bustle of like
Yeah.
being a mom. And, you know, my kids, they would never miss or be late for an appointment, or they would
Yeah.
never, you know, I would never allow that to happen. And so I think just reminding people to not let that happen to you, because you are just as your health. I mean, the way I look at it is my health is important, not just for me, but for my entire family. My family
Mm-hmm.
needs me to operate. And we have to take care of ourselves just the way we would take care of our kids. And I think if that is the one message I can get across, like that's what it would be.
I love that. Yeah. My mom was everything to me. She, I always say moms are the ones who give the kids confidence because, they're the ones that are always there at the games and if you have a bad day, a lot of times you go to the mom and she can comfort you. And, my mom, when I was, born, I was a twin, and I was kind of the twin that was struggling, to breathe. And later in life, she said, "Hey, Jesus said that you were gonna do great things in one life in life." And I really took that to heart. Like I thought it was like my superpower. Like there's this higher being telling me I was gonna be, an incredible person one day. I didn't know what it was, but I kind of held on to that. And so when you say, you're the inspiration for your kids, I completely agree with that.
Yeah, they have literally been the reason that I think a lot of people can crumble in this situation. And don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, there were definitely days where I wanted to as well. But I was like, that can't be their story. Like it can't be their
Totally.
story that they lost their mom when they were 5, 6 years old or 10 years old for my son at that time. And so I think they are the reason, as most parents would say, they're the reason we do what we do.
Mhm. So how do you maintain, going through treatment, being a blogger, taking care of your kids, and doing all the other crazy things? Because unlike a traditional job where you maybe go in at 9 and leave at 5, your life and business is kind of 24/7. So how do you manage that and maintain your edge with such a crazy lifestyle?
Yeah, it takes a village, that's for sure. We're very lucky. My parents, my in-laws, my husband, who, by the way, is like the biggest fan of cuts.
I love it. I love
He
it.
literally is head to toe in cuts most of his days.
I love it.
But he has been, I mean, everything. Everybody that has pitched in and tried to help and get the kids. We just really didn't want them to skip a beat. I didn't want them to not be able to do, XYZ because I couldn't take them or whatever. So that has helped a lot. And in terms of business, I did take a bit of a step back for a little bit and just did what I could. I never wanted to like sacrifice my health, and I won't ever do that. I won't ever let that happen,
Mhm.
like run myself ragged to do what I'm supposed to be doing. I try to manage my time better. And, like I do share my life on social media, but my life is very much outside of social media. You know what I mean? Like
Totally.
it's not my whole life, which I think is really the, a big key to success in this industry is not making it your life. It's a piece of your life, but it's not your life.
Yeah, I know. I've definitely dealt with that early on. I was single, starting the business, and really just putting 24/7 literally into it. Every day was a struggle. Hey, we might go under. And then when I started dating my fiance, it was very much like she pulled me out of it. Can you talk a little bit about how important your family has been, whether in your diagnosis or in your just personal life, and how important that is to just live a healthy life normally, and then especially going over it with your diagnosis?
Yeah. Well, like I said, my family is truly like everything to me. And I think that, you know, looking back at the past year, when I see, I never wanted my kids to struggle. Like I just never wanted to see that. But at the same time, I've realized that them watching me struggle is truly like changing how they are. Like they will have more empathy as an adult. They will have more, I don't know, just understanding when people struggle. And so I feel like, just in terms of how they've played a role in everything. I think that they have taught me that it's okay to not be okay,
Mhm.
and it's part of life. And I mean, my parents, my sisters, everybody has done so much for me. And it really just shows you like how important your family is. Like there is nobody who's going to hurt like you besides your family, and there's nobody who's going to feel this like you do besides your family. I think it was truly a family diagnosis. It wasn't just my diagnosis. Like everybody in my family has felt it probably as much or even more watching me go through it.
Yeah, that's so important. When you go through anything, it's those people around you. I think too often people think of, hey, I got to go through this by myself. I don't want to burden other people, but that's what relationships are for. They're for you. Go for it.
Oh no, I was just going to say, like, I think it's for anybody going through this to rely on the people who want to help you because they want to help you. It makes them feel better too, because I think everybody feels so helpless. I know I have in the past watching other friends go through different
Mhm.
things. And if there's something that someone can do to help you and they want to, like you let them. It's okay to need help.
Mhm. Was there something you would tell your younger self going through this? You just mentioned rely on people that want to help you. Was there any other thing that you're like, man, this really helped me get through this?
I think I really realized how strong I was throughout this. So I think that's what I would tell myself when, even a year ago,
That's
I was
great.
like, I can't do this. How am I going to do this? Like, I can't do this. And it's like, yes, you can. And you did, and I went through a pretty intense treatment, really intense surgery and all of it. And looking back, it's kind of a blur, but I'm like, dang, like I did that. Like, how did I do
Mhm.
that? I'm a lot
That's great.
stronger. You don't realize how strong you are until you have to be. There's a quote a friend told me, and she has sent me like a little gift with that, monogrammed on it. And I was like, wow, that is literally one of my favorite things. Like, you don't know how strong you are until you have to be. Like, we can get through a lot.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
So have a little bit of faith in that you were built for this in a way. Like
Exactly.
you've been.
And I do believe that this all happened to me for a reason. I feel like there was like a higher purpose to this. It wasn't just about me. That's really what I believe. And it's what helps me get through it sometimes. Cause I'm like, I went through this so that hopefully less people have to go through this. And my daughters won't have to go through this. And their daughters won't have to go through this. And that's kind of like how you have to think and believe.
Yeah, definitely. That was really why we wanted to interview today, and why we're making such a big deal as a business. We launched Women's this year, and we said we can't let this month go by without us providing our community with an inspiration like yourself to help get through it. What now you talk to a lot of people that have been through surgeries and things like this where they have a different gratitude for life of just the little things. Was that very much the case where maybe you didn't always like taking your kids to school, but now you just have overjoy? Was there little things that you now are like so thankful for?
Absolutely. I mean, I remember like even me and my community, even we like joke about it all the time. I'm like, here I am back in the pickup line, like spending an hour here. But when I couldn't do that, it was devastating, like to not be able to do the daily things. So my
Mhm.
treatment consisted of chemotherapy, which went on for 18 weeks. And during those weeks, I had about every third week, I was really down. I was really not feeling good. And I hated that time because I was usually in bed and I was like, I can't even get up and like give my daughter a bath or like, I just didn't, excuse me, feel good. And that was really hard. And then after that was my surgery, which was a very in-depth surgery. It was a lot of things done at one time. It was a double mastectomy, reconstruction, ovary
Wow.
removal, all of it at once. And it was a solid 6-week recovery. And that was very difficult to not be able to not only do things for them, but to not be able to do things for myself. I'm a
Mhm.
pretty independent, self sufficient person.
Yeah.
And I was not able to do some basic things. So, yes, you definitely develop a whole new appreciation for just the mundane things in life that you
Mhm.
complain about.
Yeah, that's I can't imagine to have to deal with that. Were you able to compartmentalize the surgery or the things you went through? Was there any little tricks of the trade that really helped going through those kind of more bigger surgery procedures?
Yeah, I think a big learning lesson was for me was to let my body heal the way it was supposed to. I think I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to lay in bed. Like, I'm going to do XYZ. And when you can't, you're like, okay, my body is really trying to tell me something. I really have to take the rest that I'm supposed to take. And I think because I did that and didn't push myself too much in the very beginning, I was able, I mean, by 6 weeks, I was working out again. And my doctors
Wow.
were shocked. They were like, how, and even during chemotherapy, I was exercising daily almost. And
Wow.
I really listened to my body, but also didn't just sit there and let everything go by and just wait for everything to get better. I really had to fight for that, you know?
Mm-hmm. What, when coming out of it was, did your kids and family were when in those moments of just like actually going through it, did the purpose of your community and just your life help you kind of push through?
Oh, 100%. Yes. I mean, my kids being like, I mean, they would like be so excited when I could like stand up straight again because I couldn't stand up straight for about 3 weeks after my surgery. And they were so excited. And I remember posting a picture in my stories like, I'm vertical, like I'm up again. And people were so happy. And it was just so encouraging. And I also think it was very humbling. You know, people were
Mm-hmm.
used to seeing me, you know, with my hair and makeup done every day
Yeah.
and my outfits on every day. And to see me literally half bald in a hospital gown with no, you know, I just looked like a completely different person. And I think having the encouragement of everybody being like, it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't matter what you
Mm-hmm.
look, it really, it didn't matter. It didn't make people not want to come to my page anymore. It didn't
Yeah.
make people not want to, you know, like shop the outfits I shared. It was the opposite, if anything.
Yeah, that takes courage. I don't know if I would be able to do that. I mean, that's an enormous amount of courage to tell that massive audience and just be authentic. And I bet now though, that you're kind of past, I don't want to say past it because you never are, but you just have that deep connection that they were with you in those moments.
It really feels like a sisterhood now. You know, it feels like that. Like every, you know, the when you say past it, I do feel like I'm past the worst of it. I did the chemotherapy, I did the surgery, I did my radiation, and they were with me through it all. And I feel like if they can stick with me through all that, I say it all the time. I'm like, I know this used to be a really fun place to come to. It was all like makeup, hair, and clothes. And sometimes it's really been not so fun. And the feedback I always get is like, no, like this makes you real and relate. This makes you feel like a friend now. And I think that, and I feel the same way. I think they've cheered me on like I was their friend, and I will never forget how they showed up for me. Like,
I can see it in your voice that it's really authentic, that those they're not just numbers of people through the screen there. That's those are your sisters and brothers that are watching you.
that's really how I feel. Yeah.
How did, kind of switching gears of, being a successful fashion blogger, you the competition is crazy now. And, it seems like there's new people every day. You've maintained staying power, which I think, and we see it all the time. We work with hundreds of people, but not all of them have that can stay around year over year. How do you maintain that for someone watching that maybe he's just getting going or been around and not really finding their groove yet?
Yeah. I think something I learned really early on is to ignore the noise around you. You don't need to be like somebody else. You don't need to look
Mm-hmm.
like somebody else. You don't need to have content like somebody else. If you truly stay authentic to who you are and kind of block out the noise around you and what everybody else is doing, you will have much more success that way. I think trying to be something you're not or trying to recreate what somebody else has done will rarely be successul. You know, I think if people are following you because they want to follow you, not because they want to follow the you that's trying to be somebody else.
Totally. I preach to the team every day is, we can look at a bunch of different other businesses of how to run it, but they're not you behind the screen, or they're not me. Let's take business. Let's think about it differently. And I think we have, and that's what's led to a lot of our success. Let's talk a little bit more about actually being authentic, because I think it's easy to say that, but how do you actually maintain doing that? Because I know for me, when I'm behind the screen, it's actually hard to not put on a front, so to speak. Like how do you actually do that so good?
I feel like it's a learned skill over time. I think in the beginning, I'd
Totally.
be like, okay, 1, 2, 3, like here I go. And now I
Totally.
just don't even think about it. I actually don't even listen to myself afterward. I don't rewatch it because I think that then I'll be like, oh, I'm not going to post that. I sound weird, or I sound silly, or whatever. I think being authentic means letting your guard down and almost not even caring so much what everybody else thinks. I think I've gotten better at that over the past year, obviously, just not being able to censor much that's going on. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is like bringing down the wall and just being like, okay, I'm just going to be me. And if they don't like it, they won't stick around. And if they do, they will.
How, during that process, because a lot of people don't know that and we see it, is doing what you do is an enormous amount of work. You know, you have contracts you got to go over, you have packages you got to keep track of, you have this brand wants this, reshoots. I mean, it is your page is like a CNN or Fox or, a daytime show, essentially. How do you schedule it out, or do you just let it free flow? What's your process of being great?
Yeah. Well, thank you. But I would say 90% of my content is scheduled at least, because I am like I said, I have a busy life. I have kids, I have activities, I have, a life outside of this. I have a husband, and that's all number one. So if I don't stay organized and plan things ahead of time, I have found that I feel very run down. I think staying organized is so key. And, sharing things organically, of course, everything I share is organic. Everything that I try on, purchase, brands send me, if I'm sharing it, I love it. It's not because somebody sent it to me, So I think planning that out and pre-ordering and making, I wear it for a little bit. How does this fit? How do I like it? And then sharing that way is the best way I can do that, but still stay organized.
Yeah. It sounds like you're an expert of compartmentalizing things. So you're organized, but you allow it to be organic in the same regard. But there's this time I have for this, then this time I have for this. And I think for me, that's been, over the years now, I have 7 direct reports. I have to do that, or else, I'll come home and Leslie will say, my fiance, hey, Steven, you're not even here, focus on me.
I was definitely guilty of that in the beginning as well. I think it takes time to kind of find your groove, right? And figure out how to, make sure that it's not taking over your whole life.
Yeah. I'm always amazed at how you guys do it, because, it's a little bit more like spur of the moment. Like sometimes the way, when you open things, you can tell it's right then and there, and you do such a good job of, being authentic. And, it's a skill that I still don't have. So I got to learn from this. The team's telling me, they're like, hey, Steven, you got to, get on TikTok. There's these founders that do really well with it. And if you started doing it, and I always say, when I'm not running the business, I'm in meetings all day. And so we're brainstorming an idea of hiring someone to kind of do it. I don't know if I'm the first person camera type, even though the guys want me to, but I think I got to study your page more.
Well, I think it's awesome that you even do this. When I found out that I was going to be talking to you, I was like, oh, that's amazing that he's doing this. And also what you guys are doing for October and breast cancer awareness, I think is incredible. So thank you for that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Women's, I always say for us, we have goals to be a household $1 billion brand one day. And I think, women in the workplace, there's, since I read a study, since 2005, there's been more college graduates, and then even more from a content creator, because a lot of our people that wear us are not the 9-to-5ers necessarily, or more people like you. That is overwhelmingly more women. And so for us to be a truly great brand, we have to live and breathe of how you guys live and make products with you guys in mind and sink our teeth into that community. And so with our Tomboy tee, we wanted to make a t-shirt that didn't wrinkle. It was easy to wear, but you could wear it with trousers, or you could wear it with sweatpants, and have multiple use cases for it. And more than anything, be comfortable and flexible throughout, taking the kids to the school or having to be on camera. So when we look at your profile, you're like our ideal, you're one of our moats of
Oh, thank you. Well,
how
we
we
are
think
big
about it.
Cuts fans. Like I've said that so many times. I mean, all of my friends now are like, "Oh my gosh, I finally got it for my husband, and I can't even get over it." So aside from women's, which I love, we kind of are the ones who decide what our husbands wear too. And if they want it, because my husband's always like he wants to be comfortable, and he's a dentist, so he used to wear
Wow.
scrubs all the time, but I mean, he's been doing this a long time. He's like, I'd rather be in my cuts and I'm still comfortable, but I look more professional than wearing my scrubs. So, and then of course, like weekend wear, but yeah, like as women, we not only are wearing your stuff, but we're, putting it on our husbands because we know they'll love it and they look good.
I love it. We always say the secret to a men's closet is through her. Like
Absolutely.
she
It
picks
is so
out.
true. It's so true. I think my husband, he actually is the one who found cups before me, believe it or not. But
Love it.
well, I just, every time new stuff comes out, I'm ordering it for him. And he's like, oh, I love this. Like he doesn't even know what I'm ordering, but he loves it when he gets it.
I love it. I own the company, but Leslie still picks my Friday night outfit out, my fiance. So it doesn't matter how many shirts I have. She's still the one. So was there something when you were kind of going way back, how you grew up, that, with the sport of business, you have to be very competitive to be great. Like even in your role, career, there's always the next blogger. Not that you're necessarily competing against one person or another, but there's only so much attention. Was there something that you did growing up in Texas that prepared you to kind of live in this fast-paced life that now you realize it?
I don't know if I can pinpoint one thing, but I've always loved talking to people. I've always been in sales. I used to do pharmaceutical sales for years. Before that, I used to work for Hilton Hotels doing sales. I've always loved talking to people. I think you have to be a people person, even though you're talking to a phone screen, you're really talking to thousands of people. And so I feel like one, you have to really like talking to people and like people. And I think you have to be excited about what you're sharing and what you're doing. So I've been really lucky to now partner with brands that are a very organic fit for me. Things that I have been shopping for years, or I would like the second I got it, I was like, oh my gosh, where has this been all my life? So I think, just being a people person and then, just being passionate about what you do. And I think that started for me at a young age, and I think a solid work ethic is lacking these days.
Totally.
And I have a really good work ethic. I pride
Totally.
myself on that. My management company always tells me that they get really nice feedback from brands, which always means so much to me because I'm like, okay, good. I'm glad that like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it and I'm going to try to do it the best as I can,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. You never know what type of things can have correlation. I sold women's shoes in college at Nordstrom, and you got so many reps of talking to women, and I didn't know shoes before, so you kind of had to learn this, and then just applying that skill set to cuts, it helps so much because I think on a given day you talk to 30, 40 people, you helped, and but all of those people were just reps to get better and better. And now running the business, I'm always like, I'm great at sales and great with people because I talked to so many people over the course of 4 years while I did that in school, and I'm really grateful for that. So I think too often people aren't in the career that they want to be right now, and they kind of get down on themselves. But if you just kind of can see the forest through the trees, a lot of times the job might be perfect for what's next, but it's hard because you can't always see it. And so I always, preach to the team, life isn't always up and down. It can be side to side. So this might not ladder up to something, but it might be a great skill set to connect the next thing that gets you up. So just take it seriously every day.
I totally agree. I think every experience is setting us up for something else, and if you can get the most out of that experience and take something from it, which I think we can all take something from any experience and apply it to something else later, I think it will only make us more successful.
And on that note was, as you look for the next 10 years, and hopefully it really is past you, the cancer was there one thing that we've kind of talked about this a couple of times now, but was there anything that you think you really took from this experience that you moving forward?
Oh, I just think I will never take anything for granted. And I think I took a lot for granted before. I think when you are a busy mom and you are going through the motions and you're just like trying to check every box, I don't want to live like that anymore. I don't want to live checking the box. I want to like get the most from everything. And I want to really enjoy my life versus just live my life, if that makes sense, you know?
Totally.
And I think sometimes when you're trying, so, you know, you're trying to be successful, you're trying to raise your family, you're trying to be a good wife, you're trying to do all these things. Like, what are we taking from, like, what are we really, I don't know. I think there was just a lot of time where I can look back and be like, gosh, I let those first few years of my kid's life really pass me by. You know, I wish I could have stopped and really enjoyed it more.
I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I need personally. And I've noticed in social media career lives, and Cuts falls into that, is you do get stuck into going on to the next thing. And I think little things help. Like, you know, me and Leslie will not have our phones when we go to dinner. If we're eating out, we'll say, let's just leave that in the car and let's just focus on each other for a little bit without any distractions. Or even yesterday, I got out of work and I just looked up and tried to smell the surrounding. I was listening to this podcast and he mentioned just look up and try to smell, because when your body smells, you can kind of settle where you are right now. And yeah, that I think, especially, you know, the young people that are coming out, they're spending so many hours on TikTok and all these things. And although it can lead to great opportunities, that lesson that you mentioned there is so important, just to build that, because it really is a skill that you have to learn. It doesn't always come easy, and things can kind of just consume you out of nowhere, but building that domain expertise into your daily life is so important.
I completely agree. I feel like, especially the next generation, my kids included, like, you know, everything's on a screen. And I'm like, don't forget the person sitting next to you, the human being that you can connect with, like right next to you. Cause like, I know my son, he's only 12, but like when they're together with their friends, they're all, they want to be together, but they all want to be on their phone together. And I'm like, what is the point of this? Like, let's put the screens away. Y'all go outside, play basketball. Like, I don't know, like do what, I don't know. Things are just a lot different these days. And I hope that I'm able to encourage that in my kids starting, you know, at a young age. Like, it's not like, just don't forget to enjoy what's happening right here around you.
Have you noticed that with you and your kids' friends, or, you know, the parents in your group, that you have to set stronger deadlines? Hey, if you're hanging out, there's no phones. Is that
we talk about it beforehand. We're like, are we doing screens or no screens? And we'll be like, hey, I'm sending it, but he doesn't know it's in there. Maybe after they play for a couple hours, then they can use it. It's definitely, I think we're all on the same page with that. All parents are concerned about the amount of screen time our kids get these days. And especially once they get old enough to have a phone, you know, most my son, Reza, and his friends, like none of them have social media on their phones or anything like that. I think it's kind of a consensus that parents are really starting to realize, like, hey, like this is a lot, you know, this is a lot different than it used to be. Like, we need to be a little bit more on high alert here.
Yeah. And I read this stat that there's like 30% less kids in sports over the last 20 years from the previous 20 years. And that always makes me so sad, because I wasn't a professional athlete or anything like that, but I learned to want something through sports. Like I was on the freshman team. I wanted to be on the varsity team, or I, you know, learned how to, you know, work hard because I wanted to earn those spots. And a lot of that experience has led to success in business. And that's really, you know, our tagline for the sport of business. It's very similar experience. And I hope that kids and parents all over the world really push their kids into doing things. It doesn't necessarily need to be sports, but the more things they can do and the more taste they can have when they're younger, they'll have a better palette of what they actually want to do. You know, I've probably interviewed hundreds of people, but when we interview, you can tell the people who haven't really done a lot and they just lack a little bit of ambition. And so, I completely agree with that. That's so important.
That's definitely top of mind all the time. I'm like, you know, what are our kids going to do after this? What are they like? I'm not defining success by like monetary, but I want them to do something with their lives, right? We don't want them to they're really lucky the way they're growing up. And, you know, kids have a lot more than we ever had growing up. So, you know, just kind of trying to instill that in them is important.
Well, you seem like a great mom, and
thank you.
And an even better survivor and inspiration to everyone. To kind of wrap it up, was there anything else that you would like to share to maybe someone that was going through something similar to you, or maybe just heard the news that you would want to, you know, let them know?
Gosh, there's probably so many things, but I think the number one thing that I would tell myself every day, and I still do, is to stay positive. I think a positive mindset, as cliche as that sounds, I
Totally.
remember even my oncologist telling me that like cancer is hard, but the mental part of it is harder,
Mhm.
and I really believe that. Like to my core, I think the mental torture that it can be is so hard. And if you can find a way to stay positive, it will carry you through so much of this and a reason to stay positive.
Yeah, that it's I I'm a very positive guy, and I don't know if I would be positive in that situation. So, and I think I might be butchering this, but even just smiling can cure like a sickness sometimes,
Yeah.
because it's a signal to your body of uh, uh, like it's a signal to your body to help your body. I'm butchering it right now, but it helps your
I know
body.
what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I also feel like there's something to be said about like fake it till you make it. Like I didn't
Mhm.
want to get up and work out during that time. But if once
Totally.
I did it, it always helped me, and I didn't want to get up and smile and be on Instagram. But once I did, I was like, hey, I'm doing pretty decent, like I can do this.
I love it. I love it. Well, yeah, I appreciate you coming on our podcast. This was a lot of fun. I know the Cold Cuts teams is a huge fan of yours. So thanks for taking the time. Thanks for helping us build awareness for Breast Cancer Awareness Month starting in October. And yeah, thanks again.
Thank you so much for doing this. And thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again sometime soon.
Definitely.